Just to follow on where we stopped before lunch, I would just like to pursue this a little bit more because I think you all find it valuable and interesting, the whole domain name thing. And it's there are lots of information on the internet regarding domain name dispute resolution. And one of the nicest places to have a look at decided cases is the WIPO website. You'll see there are thousands of cases that are listed in terms of name, category, issues discussed. So if you ever come across a domain name situation that you would want a bit more clarity on in terms of the UDRP, the document at the base of all of this. And it's a practical question. You yourself or your corporation, someone you know, you might have a question regarding whether you might be successful in a UDRP complaint or not, or how to interpret the policy. Or a very good place to have a look is WIPO. Through the years, they have these panel of experts that are the arbitrators, and every now and then they came together and they discussed the different issues. Training sessions, discussions, and every now and then they do what they call a WIPO overview. There we go. You'll see this is the second overview. And all of those elements that we had a very brief look at earlier are discussed in terms of questions with answers to the questions. And the answers to these questions are based on decisions already reached in terms of the UDRP. You'll see some of them have minority views, some of them have majority views, and then you also get consensus views. And what makes it nice is that it's substantiated by already decided cases in which these fundamental principles that have crystallized during the past 15 years, they cite the most important cases. So it's a very nice place to reference if you have a problem with any specific element. Like, for instance, the first one, just to take the example, does ownership of a registered trademark to which the domain name is identical or confusingly similar automatically satisfy the requirements of paragraph 4A1 that says that the complainant must have rights? That's quite an easy one. It's a consensus view. Okay. So everyone sort of agrees. If you have a trademark, then it satisfies that threshold requirement that you have rights, so you can proceed to the next step. And you'll see there are many questions in each of those three elements that we had a look at that are very relevant. Another one, what is the test for identity or confusing similarity? And they discuss it there. And then again, they provide you with a list of decisions in which those principles were clarified. You'll see from old to new, and whether the complaint was successful or not. And then you can just go have a look at the decision and you can see the reasoning of the panelists. So this is a very nice reference point to go have a look at if you're unsure about the application of a specific principle. Here you'll see some big decisions like Guinness, America Online. If you go through this, Walmart, Abercrombie and Finch, Asda, you see very prominent, well-known trademarks. So if you're uncertain, go have a look there, play around, look at some of the decisions, look at some of the reasoning. Doesn't always make sense, to be honest. But it provides a nice guide. So go and have a look at the wiper overview. Click on a few of those decisions. See how the reports are set out. You'll see it's a very specific format that it's done in. How the complainant sets out their case. How the respondent replies. You'll find it quite interesting, and it'll give you quite a nice insight into the intricacies of how the UDRP operates. Okay. And then just a concept that I find quite interesting that very few people tend to think of in a domain name dispute resolution context, and I think something that needs to be addressed in more detail, and I'm sure it will be addressed in more detail as the industry develops, is something called reverse domain name hijacking. The big problem at the start was, when the UDRP was first devised, was on cyber squatting itself. But then as the system started to mature, because you see all those big companies and the names involved, the companies themselves also got naughty. They tried to, and the discussion we had earlier this morning, where that very elusive line lies between protecting your rights and infringing on the rights of others. Because having a trademark or a patent provides you certain rights, but there are limits to those rights. You agree with me? There's this inherent tension between, as we said this morning, intellectual property rights and the rights of others. When do my right to have an exclusive right to something, like a name or an invention, start infringing on the liberties or the rights of others? And reverse domain name hijacking is one of those examples. It's where people with a clear right think their right is sort of all-encompassing, so they start infringing on the rights of others. And that's exactly what reverse domain name hijacking is. Some of the big companies want to monopolize a word or phrase, and they want to exclude all others from using that particular word or phrase. So it's the opposite of cyber squatting. It's basically using this policy, the UDRP, in bad faith in a reverse sense. I'm going to use a practical example to illustrate it more clearly. In South Africa, for instance, we have a big logistics company. They other places in Africa and in Europe as well that they call Bidvest. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. But just as an example. Now, Bidvest, a big company, they spend a lot of money protecting their trademarks. So let's say, and the word bid could be regarded as a generic term. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Can use it in very various contexts, but it's a generic term. It's a dictionary word, so in the philosophy of trademark law, we would say that no one specific person can have a monopoly on that word. And now all of a sudden, my friend wants to start an online auctioning business, much like eBay or something. But he wants to call it Bid Easy. Just as an example. Now he registers the name Bid Easy, and he carries on an auction site on the web page for the domain name Bid Easy. Now all of a sudden, he receives a UDRP complaint from Bidvest saying, but you're using our trademark, you're incorporating our trademark in your name. And that happens. It happens with a lot of those companies that are regarded as well-known or with strong trademark rights. Now, that's a classic example of reverse domain name hijacking. The name is not used in bad faith. Even though it incorporates the trademark holder does not have a monopoly on that name. The trademark rights do not extend to that monopoly type of situation. So that would be a classic example of reverse domain name hijacking. So also be careful and on the lookout for that. Your rights only extend so far. So you can also abuse the policy in another way. Okay, all of you comfortable with that concept, description, understand what it means? Yeah, it's bullying. It's bullying in reverse. Yes, it's bullying. Yes, and you'll be surprised because trademark lawyers get paid to protect the marks. The big companies actively protect their marks. So they have huge budgets that they spend on trademark searches. And if a company would see that, okay, sure, the word bit easy has been my client's name, it incorporates my client's mark. The lawyer that has an open budget in protecting that mark,
who's been sitting for the past 10 years.
Who's been sitting on that portfolio of marks for the past 10 years, he will think, I'm going to make some money out of this. So let's institute, I make my client happy because he sees I'm actively protecting the mark. They use all avenues and they aggressively enforce their trademark rights. And it happens quite often. It happens more often than one would expect. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything about the UDRP I can explain in more clarity to you guys, or that you would like me to revisit, or?
No, I think for now.
Good for now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Then we can move on to the new GTLD program from ICANN. Now again, if we think about our discussion this morning, everything we've discussed, what we know about trademarks, ICANN decided, because there are too few generic top-level domains, and it's getting crowded in there. .com is crowded and the rest are crowded. For various different reasons like net stability, competitiveness, they wanted to disperse the domain name registrations out of the existing generic top-level domains. So they went through this whole process that took them years, and they decided on the new generic top-level domain program. And what it in essence entails is that there's an application process in which you can apply for your own generic top-level domain. Not the second-level domain, the top level. So the last part. And can you see the problem there? Again, as with this first come, first serve start of the .com, again, it's possible for people to apply for a top-level domain, not even a second-level domain, that may or will include a trademark. So it opens up a whole new different kettle of fish and a whole new possibility for abuse. So they needed to be very careful of how they approach this new program, because it's again a huge scale abuse opportunity for cyber squatters or anyone that would again like to abuse the trademark system. So they instituted the program, but this time, because they have learned the lessons of the past, it's not on a first-come, first-served basis anymore. Firstly, the whole application process was done in a very strict manner. And if you look at, while that is downloading, you can go. So they had a process that spanned years in putting this program together. And one of the most important things they did was to have preemptive trademark protection mechanisms built into the application process itself, as well as the processes that followed the successful delegation of the applied for new generic top-level domains. So there were various different processes built in to protect rights holders. ICANN received more or less 2,000 applications for new generic top-level domains, of which around 1,300 were successful, although not all of them have been delegated yet. So you'll see the future of the internet changing drastically. You'll see various different generic top-level domains. Apparently one of the most popular ones that have already been delegated, in which the most names have been registered, is .guru, for instance. Some other reason. Yes, .guru. Apparently a few 100,000 names have already been registered in .guru.
Wow.
Yes.
There's no church.
Is it mostly in India or?
I have no idea. It was actually an American. It was actually an American company that registered the .guru name.
Tu as trop zoomé en fait.
Non, c'est bon, il n'y a pas de doute. Il faut juste défiler. Parce que là-bas, horizontal,
Tunisia to the rescue.
la
Not
page,
again.
Okay, yeah, there we go. Thanks, Patricia. Yes, we can just start there. Let's see if that works. Now, if you want to go have a look at the new generic top-level domain program in more detail, the website is very nice. It's well constructed. It shows you the process. And the best place to go have a look to get an idea of the process in general, or an overview of the process, is to have a look at the applicant guidebook. They had various different versions of it and refined it as the process continued along, because various different stakeholders could have input on the applicant guidebook. This is a bit slow, isn't it? Well, there we go. So you have these different modules within the guidebook, and it takes you through the process that the applicants needed to go through. Evaluation, questions, criteria. Then it also made provision for objection phases. So if someone applied for a name, interested parties could object to the registration of that name, whether it be a trademark holder or organizations. For whatever reason, there were objection phases. For instance, the ICANN's GAC, which is the Government Advisory Committee of ICANN, also had an opportunity to file GAC objections, as they called it, if it was community-sensitive names, for instance. And that's exactly what happened with .Africa, and is still an ongoing process.
Who's going to happen one day?
I'll tell you later in private. We're on camera here, we can't. But yes, because .Africa you would see is could be a very contentious string, top level domain for various reasons, because lots of people would like it. And apart from the fact that lots of people would like it, from a commercial perspective, it's a very community sensitive name. So part of the objection process procedures were built in that various different parties could object to certain names before they were delegated, or before in the evaluation process before they would go on to the next stage. And North Africa is a perfect example because there were two applicants. And the Government Advisory Committee of ICANN, for instance, objected numerous times to the second application, and they provided reasons. So what I'm trying to illustrate is that there are safeguarding measures that ICANN built into the process in order to try and prevent abuse. Okay. You can have a look at in more detail at these modules. You'll see that there are dispute resolution procedures. If where is that now? If there are disputes regarding a particular string, that didn't work, or did it?
You've not clicked it.
Isn't.
No.
It's in the left.
Use your right hand.
There we go.
No, it's
No,
downloaded.
it's the-
There we go. There we go.
Just click for free.
Oh yes, I've opened it 3 times. Great. Now you'll see again that ICANN appointed a number of different dispute resolution service providers, and you remember you must distinguish between the UDRP, which has dealt with the already existing GTLDs, and this process where people applied for a new generic top-level domain. This is just during the application process. So it's a totally different process than the UDRP. It's a totally different outcome. There they tell you how you can file an objection and who may file an objection. If there's string confusion, in other words, that's exactly the UDRP type scenario where there are names that are so similar that it's confusing. Then you also had legal rights objections. If you had a trademark, strong rights, you have legal rights, you could object to the mark being registered. That would classically be the well-known mark scenario. Then you had limited public interest objection. That would classically be your cultural rights, religious rights, stuff like that. And then you had community objection. Now, community objection would be the .Africa scenario, where the African community as a large would then object, or would be able to object to a certain name. .Africa is different in the sense that it's classified in terms of the applicant guidebook as a geographic name.
Okay.
Now, a geographic name has yet still further hurdles to cross in order for the application to go through successfully through the application process. For instance, there's a 60% support requirement. 60% of the community, of that geographic community, which in this case is the African continent, needed to support the application in order for the application to proceed to the next phase.
How do we show that support?
Well, if you look at the guidebook, you'll see the specifics depending on the geographic name in question.
Okay.
Authorities within that geographic name must support it. If it's governments, like the .Africa example, for instance, through the African Union, They regarded the African Union as the representative body of Africa, but they also, not only the African Union needed to support a particular application, but individual African governments as well, in order to reach that consensus view, or not consensus view, but the majority requirement for the geographic name.
So these governments must also be responsible for moving, gathering information from citizens up to their level.
No, it's just a representative body. Otherwise, the process would be too intricate. So we, as normal citizens, wouldn't have a say.
Wow.
The people we've elected would have a say, because they represent us.
Supposedly.
They represent us.
If they represent us, then they should listen to us.
No, exactly. But that's the big question of life, I suppose. That's politics.
So the applicants have to go to like kind of lobby government so that they could support them. Or
Yes. Yes, that's what it boils down to. That's what it boils down to, in essence. So if you wanted any geographic term, South Africa is a good example, but any geographic term, whether it be, and we spoke about geographic indicators a little earlier as well, any geographic term, whether it's your country name,
We have the Amazon case.
yes, any geographic region, like Patricia said, the Amazon case, it's very intricate and it becomes quite complicated. But it's still a geographic name. So any geographic name, whether it's a city name or a continent name or just a region name, needs 60% support of whoever represents that geographic region. Then you'll see there are a number of processes in the dispute, objection filings, a panel that sits and actually looks, even negotiation and mediation. That would typically be between two opposing applications for the same name. Then there's hearings, and then the determination is made by the expert panels that was appointed by ICANN, which would usually be either an international dispute resolution body, like the International Court for Arbitration, the American Court of Arbitration, WIPO, any one of those bodies.
What are the qualifications of these people? Are they like what you described in the beginning, lawyers with degrees on top?
Yes, it usually would be. Why they would appoint those bodies in the first place is to stay as objective as possible. Those bodies would already have a panel of experts that are usually made up of lawyers or advocates or judges. So the perception is one of objectivity, in the sense that ICANN themselves, all the parties involved in the process, had no say over who's appointed in making the final determination. So that's why it's sort of a long way around, so to speak. Okay, now. How can I go back to that previous page? On top.
No, the other one.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Thanks. I'm getting to know this thing better and better. There you'll see the string contention procedures as well. If there are two applicants applying for the same name, you can have a look at those in detail. And then we get to the other trademark protection mechanisms incorporated into the process. Now, these are just for the application process. When a name is delegated eventually, when the applicant was successful and the name is delegated, that applicant itself or themselves would then also have other potential trademark protection mechanisms, but that's after the delegation, after the fact. These are part of the application process. So these happen before the delegation of the name, before ICANN hands over the name for registrations to take place. One of them, the first one is the URS, or the Uniform Rapid Suspension. That's... Is it going now? No. Yeah, there it is. It's very similar, very similar in principle to the UDRP. It's just a more truncated process.
Disconnect. Retry. No, it's
No,
limited.
disconnect. Okay, no, it's coming.
Reload.
Il faut cliquer sur réessayer.
Reload.
Reload.
It's already done. Reload it.
Yes.
You reload it.
There is
Sorry.
a problem with internet connection now. Resolve, yeah, connecting, it's okay.
There it is down
Another
there.
one.
Something happened. Oh, there we go.
C'est en cours.
It's still loading. It's still downloading.
Thanks, Patricia.
Opening.
While that opens, you'll see if we look at it very shortly, that it's something very similar to the UDRP. The difference is just that it's a truncated process and it happens a lot faster.
How many pages? The UDRP was 4, right?
This is a bit longer, but it happens a lot faster. It's sort of a, if you think of it in legal terms, you get a normal court application where you can go to court, and after a while you get a certain result. Let's say that's the UDRP. This is an urgent application to try and explain it to you a little bit better. This is a form of an urgent application. It's based on more or less the same principles as the UDRP, but that's why it's called rapid suspension. So if there is obvious trademark abuse, you can use this process in order to stop the process of the delegation of the name.
And the fee,
So those are like the no-brainers
dollars
of.
per process, is it?
Yeah, the sort of the no-brainers of this is clearly infringement.
Okay.
Stop it in its tracks now. That's why it's called a rapid suspension.
Okay, so you have to go through the process to get to where you want to get, like to say this is.
Yes,
This is
but the process is very truncated. It's supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be effective. It's supposed to be quick. So because all the new applicants, all the names were published. And then it goes through the whole evaluation process, various different panels. And if that name was published and you saw that name and you know that you have a trademark, you could turn to this process to sort of stop it dead in its tracks.
So what happened if like the case for Africa.com, there are already 2 people applying for it, and the process is ongoing, and there's someone else. I mean, this is a bit more known, but for those things that know, if someone else wants to apply for the same, what do I can tell them? Do they tell them, sorry, we can't, or you have to wait, or?
That's what they call, I'll go back to the applicant guidebook now, that's what they call a contention set. .Africa was a geographic name, so the process is a little bit different.
Okay, so in different.
The process is different because it was a geographic name. It first had to go through a geographic name evaluation panel and all of that. And then there were GAC objections because it's the government advisory committee because it's a geographic name. So the process is a little bit different. But for a normal trademark, you get, that's what they call a contention set. And there are different procedures for contention sets to go through. I'll show it to you now.
Okay.
I'll show it to you now. But this is, if someone wanted to register a new GTLD and it's an obviously infringement of rights, then you would use the Uniform Rapid Suspension as one of the trademark protection mechanisms at your disposal. Yeah, it's the... No, it's fine. That one was all right.
You wanted to go to the UGRP. Which one?
Oh, okay. Before you guys fall asleep, I'll show you some nice videos now so that my voice can take a rest as well before we fall asleep. Okay, there we go, it's fine. You see these, they are the procedures, the question you ask about the string contentions. If there are two people applying for the same name. That scenario does not suppose infringement of a trademark, it's just people that want the same name. So they basically have equal rights. How do you resolve that contention? They call it string contention. String is basically just the common word they refer to for the name applied for. So if there are two parties applying for the same name, then there are certain procedures to decide who eventually gets it or whose application is successful. These procedures are there to protect trademarks. So it's something different. Here is an infringement of rights, trademark rights. There people with supposedly equal rights compete for the same name. So apart from the uniform rapid suspension, I can also devise what is called the trademark clearinghouse.
Sorry, for interest's sake.
Yes.
Is it an easy process to decide what to do when two people can apply for the same name?
No, it's not an easy process. I would suppose it's not. But I can set out the procedures very clearly. How those procedures...
If it's long, we can move.
How those procedures... We can have a look at the string contention procedures a bit later as well. The other one is the trademark clearinghouse. That's one of the newest, sort of most exciting inventions that ICANN came up with during the new GTLD program. And that's the biggest difference between the old generic top-level domains, the .coms, where it was a first-come, first-served type thing, and the new GTLD program. Because they learned the lessons, basically. So during this process, what you as a trademark owner could have done and can still do is if you have a registered trademark, you could register your trademark in the trademark clearinghouse. There's a separate website for that. We can go to that if you want to. And ICANN appointed various service providers again throughout the world, of which the Lloyd and Tush is the main one that administers the whole process, where you could then, if you have a registered trademark, submit your trademark certificate in whichever jurisdiction it was registered, although it should be an examined trademark. You submit it within the trademark clearinghouse, and a record is included in the trademark clearinghouse. So let's say Nike would register their trademarks in the clearinghouse. Then within the clearinghouse there are what they name watch and claim services. If your trademark that is registered within the clearinghouse is registered in any one of those new top-level domains, any one of the 1,300 new top-level domains, the watch service entails the trademark owner being notified that someone wants to register this name that is within the trademark clearinghouse. So you will immediately know that someone is registering your or wants to register your trademark as a domain name in any one of the 1,300 new GTLDs. And the claim service is the registrant, is you, the person that wants to register that name, is also sent a notification once you want to register that name to say that there are previous rights, proven rights to this name. So you see, the whole thing changed. A lot more safer. So this is, if you want to protect your trademark, go and register your name in the Trademark Clearinghouse. Because if your trademark is applied for as a domain name in any one of those new GTLDs, you'll get a notification of it. And the person that wants to register it will also be notified that there are prior rights to this name.
Well, the prior rights, does it bar them from registering?
Depending on the process, the registration of the name is usually blocked. But if it happens that that name is still, because the person that registered the trademark in the clearinghouse then has an opportunity to block the domain name, to intervene in the process, so to speak. But it would be a very good indication if the registration still happens in subsequent UDRP proceedings, because all these new generic top-level domains will also be subject to the UDRP. So then that would be a prima facie indication of abusive registration.
Because it was pre-notified?
Yes. So go and we can have a look at the Trademark Clearinghouse website a little bit later. It's actually very easy to do if you have a registered trademark. You go to the Clearinghouse website, you register an account with them, fill in a number of details, and you submit your trademark registration certificate. They have trademark law experts. They appointed a number of service providers who would then look at your trademark certificate, determine whether it's authentic or not. And a good example is LexSynergy, for example, that's based in London. They look at whether the trademark looks authentic. They validate the trademark, and your name gets placed on the Trademark Clearinghouse database. So you will be notified if anyone in any one of those new GTLDs wants to register your trademark. Oh my goodness. And the last dispute resolution rights protection mechanism built into I think I'm on the wrong. I'm actually looking for the other one now. How can I go back to now?
The applicant guidebook?
Yes, the applicant guide. Oh, there we go. Thank you. The other rights protection mechanism built into the process is the PDDRP. That's the post-delegation dispute resolution procedure. Now, this procedure is particularly focused on the registry, not individual registrants. That is the person that would administer that new GTLD, the person that I can delegate it, the GTLD to. So that's basically the person overseeing the whole process, giving out the names, the successful applicants. Now, the procedure just provides for if the registry, the body or the person responsible for overseeing that GTLD, if that body makes itself guilty of abusive practices, then in terms of that procedure, there are certain remedies that can be followed to stop the abusive practices. So it's against the registry in general of that whole generic top-level domain. It's not individual registrants, people with individual domain names. It's the body that handles the whole registry. Okay, let's see if I can manage this again.
A continent made up of millions and millions and millions of people, just like you. Maybe you're...
Sure.
That's it. A young African person with a great idea. Maybe you're an African charity organization, a school, a college, corporation, sports team, media outlet, mad scientist, or celebrity masterchef. One thing is for sure, no matter who you are, you're an African person with a story to tell. So what is the biggest thing that any great idea, business, or organization needs to tell its story? Aside from a strong cup of coffee, you're probably going to need a unique space on the internet to let everyone out there know exactly what it is you are doing. When creating your space on the internet, you will need a great domain to go with it. So you've heard of .com and .net, right? What about .ke and .za? These are all top-level domains where you can register the name of your idea, company, or organization so that other people can easily find you. But what about identifying yourself with the awesome continent that you're in? How do you create a space on the internet that is uniquely African? Well, this is where we come in. For the first time ever, a uniquely African top-level domain is in the making, and you can be the first to own a .africa domain. So now when you want to register your uniquely African idea, business or organization, or simply appeal to the millions of African people out there, you can with a .africa domain space. .africa is the top-level domain currently being applied for by the African community. The application was lodged in March 2012 and is currently under evaluation. Like our Facebook page and check out our website to follow the progress of this exciting initiative.
Come on, let's talk about it.
Exactly.
Okay, let me show you another little video.
Okay.
And then we can, it's also short, so...
Off the record.
He's keeping his kids.
But you know it's so
Welcome
tricky.
to Africa.
It's
Home to
tricky.
1 billion people with 1
Whatever happens, if they
Is
lose,
it the same one,
if
eh?
they lose and the other people get
Okay.
their rights.
billion
They
stories
want,
to
you
tell.
know, there are two
And
countries,
there used to be no
two
better
restaurants.
job. But that
Would
They
not
have
have
to set up a sort of
African
regulation.
It's two applications.
Yes.
This is a new video, isn't
The
it?
intention of which I want to grant.
So you be teaching them.
Yes, if it's in the right position, whatever discussions we have.
Yes, okay.
Do you understand?
Okay, let's watch this one, it's fine, yes.
the African internet landscape is about to get
The politics.
Sorry.
It's important. You get it.
Okay guys, here's another one for your enjoyment.
The African internet landscape is about to get a dramatic makeover. The ZA Central Registry, in association with regional governments, NGOs and the private sector, will soon be releasing 4 uniquely African geographic top-level domains, or GeoTLDs, including the 3 major South African city TLDs, namely .Joburg, .Cape Town and .Durban, and the much-anticipated continent-wide .Africa. Through a special launch program, these GeoTLDs will be made available to the public in early 2014. The launch program will also provide an opportunity for brand owners and businesses, including trademark owners, to protect their valuable naming rights. Brands that are protected as registered trademarks, like Nike, ShopRite and Cisco, will thus get priority in applying for their matching domain names under these new GeoTLDs. This phase is called the sunrise period and will last for 90 days from the day of the launch. Running concurrently with the sunrise period will be a land rush period, during which prospective registrants can apply for highly sought-after premium generic domain names, such as travel.africa, bank.africa, or safari.africa. The land rush period will run for 120 days from the day of the launch. The GeoTLD launch program will therefore extend over a period of 4 months, during which the public, through their selected registrars, can apply for their chosen domain names.
If you intend to participate in the launch of these exciting new African TLDs, and your application is based on an existing priority right, such as a trademark, business or company name, you will first need to have these rights validated. There are two ways in which you can do this. Through the Global Trademark Clearinghouse, which is a centralized database of validated trademarks applicable across all the new GTLDs, or by using the Localized Mark Validation System, or MVS. For validating your rights through MVS, you first need to create an account on www.markvalidation.co.za and then upload your mark with the necessary supporting information. After your mark has been validated, a validation token, or VT, will be issued to you, which you can redeem via your registrar to apply for a matching domain name during the sunrise period. At the conclusion of the launch phase, all domain name applications will be assessed and allocated according to a predetermined priority ranking system, starting from the highest ranking to the lowest. Domain name applications that are based on pre-validated rights and are therefore accompanied by a matching validation token will receive a higher priority ranking than applications without a validation token. An application based on a registered trademark right will receive a higher priority ranking than non-registered trademark rights. Even for applications based on registered trademarks, those with trademarks registered in Africa will receive an even higher priority ranking than those registered outside of Africa. Applications with the same priority ranking, also known as contention sets, will be referred to an external auction process to determine which application should ultimately succeed. At the end of the process, all successful and unsuccessful applicants will be duly notified. For any further clarification regarding this special launch program, please visit www.africainOneSpace.org.
Are these two different?
Welcome to the .Africa top-level domain. The .Africa domain name launch is a vast undertaking, and hence it is important to put mechanisms in place to
I think this is another one. If you want to have a look at that, do you want to have a look at it or not?
The government reserve name list.
That's the government. Yes, let's have a look at it.
Created for African governments and other relevant authorities to list sensitive and important names, effectively preventing them being registered by anyone else when the .Africa domain is launched. The government reserve name list will seek to isolate and protect sensitive and important names that relate to recognized geographic areas such as country names, capital cities, major towns and provinces, religious, cultural and linguistic names and identifiers such as tribes, languages or places of cultural or historic significance, or any other substantive name that is in the economic or public interest of the relevant government authority or communities within its exclusive area of influence, such as NATAC or SADC. The RNL will also be a repository for offensive names, thereby preventing them from being registered as corresponding domain names when the .Africa TLD is launched. Offensive names are defined as names or statements that inherently have the effect of advocating prejudice or hatred based on race, ethnicity, political association, gender, sexuality, religion or cultural grounds, or have the effect of inciting violence or causing harm against any person or class of persons. So, who is responsible for adding names to the RNL? A limited number of accredited representatives located all over the continent of Africa have been authorized and nominated by governments and other relevant African authorities to access and use the RNL portal. We encourage you to contact these accredited representatives directly if you believe that a prospective name fits into one of the listed RNL categories. Proposed RNL names will undergo a rigorous review process before finally being entered into the RNL. Through your active participation in this process, we will ensure that the RNL is effectively populated with the relevant names and strings based on the input from African governments and communities. So what happens if the name is entered into the RNL? Simply put, it will be reserved for a specified period of time or until the nominated beneficiary is ready to redeem it. We will encourage RNL representatives and nominated beneficiaries to redeem their reserved names in a timely manner. The reservation period can be extended in the event that the name is not redeemed in time. Names that are not redeemed and the reservation period has expired may be reclassified or released to the internet public for registration. If you are a government representative and want to participate in the reserved name process, you will need to be duly nominated by a relevant authority within your government. Once this nomination has been received, you will be sent an invitation to register on the RNL portal. This is the mechanism by which you submit your list of proposed names. On submitting a name with the relevant documentation to the RNL portal, a verification process will take place. If the name has already been applied for or reserved, you and the contending party will go through a contention resolution process to ensure the name goes to the rightful applicant. Remember that these processes are intended to protect you and ensure that sensitive and important names are used for the greater good of the African continent and community. If a name is not in the RNL, it will be treated like any other name and can be registered by anyone on a first-come, first-served basis. The RNL is not intended to regulate the protection of trademark rights or the provisioning of premium domain names, which are better dealt with under the Sunrise and Land Rush mechanisms, more details of which will be provided at a later stage. We hope that this video has given you a little insight into the .Africa Government Reserve Name List. For more information, please visit africainonespace.org/RNL.
Thanks, Patricia. Okay guys, hope you're a bit more awake now. Not really. You're going to sleep even more. Apart from, as you saw in the one video, apart from the trademark clearinghouse, if you want to register a domain name in any one of the three cities, .Cape Town, .Joburg or .Durban, or .Africa, as soon as that hopefully progresses sometime next year. There's also the opportunity, thanks Patricia, to register your name in what's called the mark validation system. Now, the mark validation system was set up by the ZACR to...
With our truly beautiful landscapes, extraordinary history, and vast array of cultures, South Africa looks forward to welcoming ICANN conference delegates to our shores. We hope that your trip...
Tout en bas, regarde. Ouais, voilà.
The mark validation system. Now, the trademark clearinghouse is for all the generic top level, the new top level domains. The mark validation system is only for the three cities and .Africa. It sort of mirrors the trademark clearinghouse. But the idea is that it's a process that enhances the protection of trademarks in Africa and for .Africa. The trademark clearinghouse is for all the GTLDs. The MVS, the mark validation system, as I said, will only be for the three cities and for .Africa. What makes it different from the trademark clearinghouse is that there are three different categories in which you can have your mark validated. It's the registered trademark category, the company or trust name category, and the unregistered mark category. So it's possible for you guys, if you have a name, even if it's not registered as a trademark, to have your name validated within the MVS. For the registered mark category, it works the same way as the trademark clearinghouse. You submit your trademark registration document. The validator looks if it's authentic. There are like 4 or 5 boxes he needs to tick, and if it is, the mark's validated. And the same watch and claim services are applicable. So if someone wants to register your registered trademark as a .africa domain name, you will be notified about that fact, and they will also be notified that there are pre-existing rights to this name. But you can also register your name in one of the other 2 categories for validation, even if you just have a company name, a registered company name, not a trademark. You can also have your mark validated, although the registered trademark is a higher level of protection. And then if you don't have a company name, or you want a name registered that does not accurately reflect or match your company name, because that's one of the requirements. The company name must exactly match the domain name you're applying for. Then you can also have the mark registered in the unregistered mark category, validated in the unregistered mark category. And for that, you need to complete an oath of a declaration of proof of use. So you say, I have been using this name for legitimate purposes, and then you need to provide the proof of the use. Either marketing material or a reference to your website, any form of proof of use, then the mark can also be validated. So when anyone else wants to register that domain name, you'll be notified and they will be notified. So that's something you can already consider doing, is to go to the MVS website. I might even show you, if you want to, try to grab a mark and validate it, if you would like to see that. But I would suggest, if you have any names that you would like to have registered in .africa, or have it protected for the cities, then go to the mark validation site. You also register there. You can open an account. You don't need to use a lawyer. You can do it yourself. And have your proposed marks validated. As I said, it's not only registered marks. It's also company names and unregistered marks. So as soon as your mark is validated, someone else tries to register that name, you'll be notified, and vice versa. So it's a good suggestion to maybe go have a look at that.
Okay. I have to sign up first.
I think it might be a good idea to just go into the MVS a little bit later and show you how that works. I'll try and grab a mark and I'll show you how exactly that works.
Okay.
Maybe, Patricia, how much time do we still have? I'm sorry, I'm not sure how late it is now or what time.
30 minutes.
30 minutes, another 30 minutes. Okay. Then maybe we can try and do that. Where do I get onto the internet again?
15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Need to do this there have a 4 and I already told you is that
No, it's. Let's see if I can get on there. Oh my goodness, it's very sensitive now.
Okay.
Yes. Just see. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's see if that works. Sorry, let me just double check if I've got the right.
Je crois que ça doit être plus au gouvernement. Plus de travail à faire.
Without
the mark validation system.
Yes. No, yes. I just need to get into the. Let's start there.
Shall we do it again?
Okay, let me start there and then. Okay, this is the website that you would access if you would want to have a mark validated. You'll see it explains very nicely what it is, how to go about it, what documents are required, the terms and conditions. So it's very easy to log in, to register, to upload your mark, provide the necessary supporting documentation. Oh my goodness.
It's going to let us do Facebook.
Oh my goodness.
Clinton is not validated.
The assistant. File assistant.
I slept like 2 times a day.
Really?
DNS failed. Internet connection problem maybe.
Would we have coffee at the bank?
Is this the website?
No, it's. I need to get on to. I need to get onto that one.
There's not many pictures. I love this. You lose your names in Djibouti. I know so.
Net.
She's
.za.
a fine concert.
Maybe it's connecting.
Maybe it's
Camera doesn't have Facebook.
I charge for my photo, so make sure that whatever my photo is, you're making count how much is
Installing.
Hmm?
Installing.
Copyright.
Time to flood Facebook.
Hmm?
Time to flood Facebook.
No. Maybe I can. Can we plug it in?
Yes.
Will it work?
With Apple?
Hmm?
What?
She's beautiful.
Where? No, you put why not to see? It's my phone and everything. No, no.
HDMI, non. Il n'y a pas l'HDMI sur les Mac. Il faut un adaptateur.
Could you just
You need an adapter.
Oh, okay.
Le câble bleu, c'est HDMI.
Oh, yeah.
C'est de l'HDMI.
Il y a le bleu là.
Oui, oui, ça c'est de l'HDMI.
Le bleu aussi qui est là. Il y a un autre qui est là. Il y a un autre.
Lui, il est où? Celui-là?
Non.
Ça?
Non.
Ça?
Non. Il y a.
Oh, okay.
Ça?
Oui.
Mais ça marche pas.
Ça marche
Mais
pas.
je pense pas que ça va marcher sur Mac, hein. Ça marche même sur Mac.
Ça marche. Moi, j'ai jamais.
Enfin, ils ont un spécial, quelque chose de spécial pour Mac. Parce que le mien, ça marche jamais avec. Donc, I don't think it's gonna work with Mac.
Yes, it's.
Et il y a peut-être pas un adaptateur USB.
It's alright, guys. Let me just.
Ce soit synchronisé de l'autre fils.
It's alright, don't worry about it.
Mr. Fakude?
No, it's fine, please.
Did you see my comment? I just commented.
We can find all the servers.
Let me repost it.
Because he doesn't recognize the others.
Oh, okay. Otherwise, we can just.
Normally it's in your host, in your cache.
Oh, yes.
Recognize the IP
Yes,
address,
yes, yes.
the main and
Yes.
But it's not urgent, it's fine, so. Thank you very much for your trouble.
So you couldn't do it after what I taught you.
Well, you'll see on the MVS website, they also explain very nicely and very graphically how the whole process works. It's not as complicated as it looks. But there you can see the process where you submit your mark, you get the validation token. claim services, watch services. But what would typically happen is if I'm a validator in the mark validation system, then I would have the option of grabbing a mark that was submitted to the mark validation system. I would grab a mark and the system will give me a mark to validate if there are any marks left. Okay, there we have the mark Barlow World, which is also a very famous. And this is in the unregistered mark category. So when it was in the registered mark category, it would have been a trademark certificate that would have been submitted. Now here I can see the information that's provided. The proof of use would then be, let's see what they submitted, a brochure for instance.
Okay.
The proof of use they submitted is a brochure for instance. There you could see it. And then myself as a validator need to tick all these boxes in order to be able to validate this mark. And only when I can tick all of those boxes will the mark then be validated. The questions are, for instance, is the mark information correct? Is the declaration of use and proof correct and accurate? Are the necessary supporter documents available? And so it carries on. You'll see that there are a number of places where you need to insert certain information. For instance, the class, the NIS classification, the class of goods.
Okay.
The class of goods. The word mark, and then you can also submit a number of matching strings. The situation we talked about earlier where only a letter or two is changed. The system is developed in such a way in any case that even if you don't put in the matching strings, the system is developed in such a way that a little difference will pick it up in any case. So then you will also be notified. Okay, but that's how the mark validation system works then. So you have a priority right, and apart from the priority right to register your domain name, you also have the claims and watch services to send you a notification if someone else wants to register your name, or to send the person registering your name a warning that there are prior rights available. Okay, sorry that didn't work.
So the mark validation system, is that for South Africa only? Or
No, it's for the whole .Africa.
Ah, okay.
It's for the cities, the .Joburg, .Cape Town, .Durban, and whenever .Africa is launched, it will be for .Africa itself.
So this has been designed especially for Africa?
Especially for .Africa, yes. It's a service that complements the trademark clearinghouse. So you can, if you only want to register your domain name in .Africa, you can just go the mark validation system route. If you want it checked in all the other new GTLDs, then you can do the trademark clearinghouse route as well.
Okay.
But this is specific. This was specifically designed for .Africa. Yes.
Okay. So Joburg, I mean the tree city for South
Yes.
Africa, is it waiting for .Africa to come alive?
No, it's already been launched.
Ah, it's already been, okay.
Yes, so you can register your names in the cities if you want to. You can register your name, and we're only waiting for .Africa. Yes. Yes, there is a dispute carrying on. There's an internal review process. It's one of the processes that the applicant guidebook makes provision for. If there's a contention set, but this one worked a little bit different because it's a geographic name. There were various processes, and the opposing applicant went through all of those processes. They went to the ICANN ombudsman. They referred it back to the ICANN board, stuff like that. And the last available process for the second applicant to follow is the internal review process of the ICANN board's decision, not to let them proceed with their application. And the internal review process has been going for a few months now, and there's a hearing at the end of December by an individual international dispute resolution service provider, the International Court for Arbitration, that will hear, a 3-member panel of that organization will hear the internal review to determine whether ICANN's board did something wrong or not. And only then, depending on what the decision is, will the application be able to proceed. So hopefully soon we'll be able to carry on. But then we'll have that stages which you saw in the video, the sunrise stage, the land rush stage, and then ultimately the general availability stage. So it goes into stages. So I would suggest if you want to register domain names, you need to, whenever you hear that the launch has started, to within that sunrise period, because no names can be registered within that period, to have your names validated. Whether it's registered, unregistered, or company name, even during the land rush phase, terms that you think should be registered as a commercial value, for instance.
So how many, I don't know,
processes?
no, like a guru, for instance.
Yes.
The person who bought that, how many domain he could take? Is it a number, a limit number to have on those?
No, the person that has .guru only administers that top-level domain. So for them to make the money out of that top-level domain, the more people that registers second-level domains, the more money they make.
Yeah.
Because they make the money out of the selling of the domain names.
Yeah.
And also there are other processes like the auction process you saw in the video. If there are 2 to 3 to 4 persons, let's take Safari.Africa. If there are 5 people that think Safari.Africa has huge commercial value, but because it's a generic name, you can apply for that name during the land rush period. And depending on how many people there is, there will then be a blind bidding process. So whoever is willing to pay the most for that name will eventually get it. And the registrar will also make money there then, depending on obviously what the price is someone is willing to pay for it.
So there is no limited subscribers to that domain? That's what
no limited subscription.
As many as possible?
As many as,
okay.
Yes, as many as you can think of. No limited subscription.
Okay.
No limited subscription.
Sorry, I just wanted the third stage, the sunrise, land rush, and
general availability. That's the sort of first come, first served principle. Although you have those mechanisms beforehand with the claims and watch services. Okay, I think maybe it's time for our break now.